What have anybody remotely do? You're recording, you're live on YouTube. Start going, I'll go check it. Okay.
Testing, testing. 1 2 1 2 testing. Testing. Testing, testing. Gwen, can you hear us? Testing, testing.
We just look them up and. Oh. We've got a few questions.
Testing, testing.
But we'll find out today. Oh.
Testing, testing.
Hey, you're good, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 9:01 a.m. on today. This is October 10th, 2025. And this is a regular meeting of the Grand County Budget Advisory Board. Those present from the board today are, at this time, are Wojtek, Martinez, Winfield, the dean. And Chantel Lindsay is here. She just stepped away for a second, so she is present. Currently not present are Throgmorton, Martinez, Kaufman.
Okay, so sure.
I'm sorry, Throgmorton. Hackwell is the name. I was looking. Hackwell, Throgmorton and Kaufman. We'll see if they join us momentarily here. So I'll go ahead and jump right into the agenda here. Action items. Jenny Beth here incorporated comments regarding the September 26th minutes that were requested by board member Martinez, as well as we have now the October 3rd minutes included. I would entertain any comments or suggestions or for edits or a motion to approve those two sets of minutes from September 26th and October 3rd.
Just two possible things on that. I don't know. Thanks for adding those in. But I don't know if it really makes it clear. The question that I think we were trying to answer is Commissioner McCurdy had a question on whether the Spanish Valley pathway was the interest that was accruing. So I don't know, maybe I could send over, I went and watched the video just real quick because I kind of saw what you had. I don't know if I could send that over to you and maybe we can include it as the conversation had happened right there. But I just want to make sure that it's clear how that interest from that account is been included right there. If that's acceptable for you, I can email those over to you real quick.
That'd be great.
And it's no sweat to hold off on approval of minutes for the 26th. Still, that's, yeah, let's get it right.
Yeah, with these edits, I just took with the conversations and as it came and put it in, I can read it right here if you guys want, or we can, I don't want to hold up. If need be.
Yeah, I mean, if you have it, that would be, yeah, if you would just want to say incorporate into the minutes of September 26th, the following.
Yeah, incorporate into the minutes the following here. Brian asked where the breakdown of expenses were for the optional sale tax. Maddie explained the grant cycle. She looks at the total expenditures and then adds in all of the grant revenue and the difference is the optional sales tax request. She works that out with the roads department. Brian clarified the optional sales tax covered the short of what the grants do not cover. There is no breakdown. Maddie agreed and further explained. It primarily covers overhead and stuff that grants are not going to cover. They give 18,500 for admin services and also her salary and operations coordination and are covered under the optional sales tax. And then at 201, Brian asked if the interest listed in the revenue was from the Spanish Valley pathway. Gabe explained that there was not 2.3 million sitting in the fund. We request reimbursement after services have been rendered. Maddie stated that up until this year, they had been putting 100,000 into the Fund 47 reserve balance. Cody felt that 1.5 million was an appropriate amount for major work. Brian asked if the interest income is coming from the 1.5 million reserve Fund 47. Maddie replied, yeah, from the optional sales tax.
All right, so I would entertain a motion to approve the September 26th meetings with the addition, just floated by, Board Member Martinez.
So
And-
made.
And as well as the October third minutes as is. We have a motion by Winfield. Do I have a second?
Same.
Second by Martinez. Okay, and I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. That motion passes, and that would be. It passes unanimously. Sometimes. All right, and we'll move right into presentations and discussion. I just have a note before I start. I have a training that had to get scheduled for this Friday, of course. And so I have to vacate here at 10 o'clock. And in 2 weeks, the same situation is gonna occur, and I would like to have a conversation. Perhaps it can be done offline. I don't want to have to leave that next meeting, in the same fashion. So hopefully we can find a, potentially a reschedule or something of that nature in order to,
Start
manage that situation. Yeah. All right, so the first presentation on the docket here is clerk auditor. That's my own office. And there are separate budget categories as well for elections and audit, in addition to my own operational budget. So we'll dive right in. So let's see. Starting off, as far as one of the major changes coming right at the top is I'm proposing a reduction of staff by 1 for the 2026 budget year. And the reduction regarding the employee costs is reflected in the draft budget estimate. Did you have a?
Yeah, just, is it a vacancy or how are you going about that reduction in staff? You're just not feeling a vacancy?
So I'm going to bring the finance director position, Chantel, physically into the office.
Okay,
She'll be able to help fill in with some of the day-to-day operation stuff in addition to her finance director role.
Okay.
And we're, just tightening it up. Certainly we're gonna be left without the backup that we've had in terms of some ability when staff is out to be able to fill in and cover things. But I think that, we'll just have to, buck up and manage that situation as we need,
right,
you know.
okay.
Does that reduction mean that somebody will be losing a job over there?
Correct, yeah.
And
It's the accounts receivable clerk, so Crystal Santana, who handles deposits, yeah. All right, so we have membership fees. There are some noticing requirements. As you'll see, there's some actuals that came up last year and this year, not very large. It's hard to anticipate, so I just leave that at 0 and amend up. It's not a very significant amount when those noticing requirements do come up. We have a travel budget. There are UAC conferences. And I think that legislative management conference that happens in the spring, particularly, there's a lot of material that we cover regarding elections related updates. And I'd like my elections specialist to attend with me to that spring conference in particular, not the fall conference. Just so that she can be there and get that training that we receive. I've got breakouts related to office expenses and supply, equipment maintenance. A lot of these relate to having a main central printer copier machine that we have, as well as my office sort of serving as the office supply hub for the courthouse building. And let's see, there had been a financial consultant that was Squire CPA firm. And we are, I think, due to there being the audit committee having a consultant in Karen from Forvis, as well as the commission, there's an additional consultant now. Was that GPS or there's an additional financial consultant?
Internal auditor?
Yeah, internal auditor. I'm feeling confident that I'll be able to potentially if I have any questions or, you know, a lot of times Squire has been useful in, you know, somewhat odd questions at irregular intervals regarding compliance or regarding how to make a certain accounting entry or not. And so between the external auditor, Richie May, or between some of the other consultants now that we have contracted, I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to satisfy those needs. There was some setup in terms of some pre-audit entries that Squire was able to complete for me. These are just some, it's kind of, they're payroll cleanup entries, that I don't understand, quite so well. And usually the way the external audit works is that they, the amount of adjusting entries that they have to include as part of their process, I think that there's a charge per adjusting entry that they have to propose, and for my review and acceptance. So there's a chance that there's going to be a handful of additional entries that I'll place the burden on the external auditor to complete. And there might be, you know, there might be some costs associated with that, but I think that it'll outweigh the savings that we're gonna get from this contract that we have with Squire. And then let's see. It's otherwise fairly basic. There's a mailing in July for the tax valuation notices. This assessing and collecting expense was high this year because the commercial appraiser had to be present for a number of appeals, much more than usual. And so that was coded to this line, what I'm proposing budget in 2026 is more in line with what we've seen in past years based on the cost of the tax valuation notice. And the schooling line accounts for the registration fees associated with the UF conferences. So that's the clerk auditor operational budget, total 682,590. So we're seeing that at 84.5% compared to 2025. And I tried my best to sort of give an overview of my office's duties, main changes, and this is kind of where I'm trying to get at with all of the department presentations at this point, is kind of just trying to fill out these cells here, just so we have this formalized, documented information about software, about revenue codes. You know, I think it will be useful from year to year to have these things populated.
Right.
So, any questions before I move on to the next piece, next category, elections?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
The only question I had is, and you might not know off the top of your head, and that's totally okay. So we're now working with these other internal auditors, Forvis and whom else?
Sorry, I forgot.
GPS, yeah.
GP.
Forvis is not an internal auditor. They are the financial expert to the audit committee,
Financial advisor, yeah.
financial advisor.
Okay. So we have all these other advisors now. Does that amount that we're estimated to pay them somewhat equal this amount? Do you think does that make sense? Like, it's great, it's coming off your budget, but the county's still obligated to it. And so I'm just interested to see, like, you think we're gonna be about the same, or?
I think it's gonna be more, but I don't know that it's necessarily apples to apples in
Okay.
terms of the services that we're getting
Right.
from one or the other.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
I don't know what the grand total of GPP and Forvis comes out to.
Okay,
Um,
and you said it was GPP?
yeah,
We've had an internal auditor since 2020 at least.
No, I understand.
I've got a question on and it's not related to your budget as much as just overall, we've talked about centralizing copy machines throughout the county and trying to get something there. And then the equipment maintenance, you show 33,900, but what is that going towards again? And then both of those lines, office supplies say see breakout, but yet how do you see the breakout? Is there something I'm missing?
down here.
Yeah, so there's some detailed breakouts below at the very bottom.
Okay, down at the bottom. All right, thank you. That's all I needed on those then, but I was still curious about that we've talked about copy machines and phones. Sorry, and just wondering if we have anybody working on that within the county, and maybe it's more of an admin question, so. I know it's been mentioned in multiple budget meetings that we should look at some way to reduce the cell phone allowance budget, if we could all get on a centralized plan, and then also we discussed the same thing with copiers, and I'm just bringing it up so that to follow up on it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think,
The phones, so for example, I have a stipend, so it doesn't matter, but does the county have their own cell phone plan? I guess,
some,
does that make sense? Like
some
stipends
staff do,
actually have,
have a device that's
Right.
specific to
So that,
a
yeah.
county plan.
right, Yeah.
You know, I think I think, the IT director would definitely want, we definitely want him to be involved. It's a ball of yarn, you know?
yeah,
But.
yeah, I bet.
And I think
Yeah.
that, I guess I'll say for the record that I think. I do think that the cell phone allowance currently offered could be reduced.
I think so too.
That's my position on the matter.
Yeah, I just think getting under a countywide plan, even if it means issuing county phones, because I know even through UAC right now, you can get a $35 a month plan.
Mhm.
But it,
And then
that's $110 for some of these, and I think the other one is what, 80 or 90. I mean, the stipend we're paying out is certainly. We're spending a lot of money county wise. I don't know what it is total, but
you know, and on that as well, I don't think you'd have to almost have two options. You have to have one option for people who basically stay local, and then you'd have your sheriffs and your probably your roads
Agreed.
department, I would imagine. They'd want to make sure that they were on some type of Verizon network, which I think is kind of what slowed it down, is not having that Verizon network and, you know, having officers or road department out in the backcountry not be able to use their phones.
Also, law enforcement's required to have a separate phone from that, for, you know, evidence purposes and things like that. Any casework and stuff is not allowed through their personal phones. So that's why those, like that department has an actual extra device that they have to use for their job. They cannot use their own phone, so a stipend wouldn't work for,
Yeah.
for law.
But if we were talking about switching the countywide plan over to a certain plan, like the plan that they have at UAC, right? I think that you would have to say, like, because I'm pretty sure that the reason that we haven't proceeded with that is that it's not Verizon. And nobody wants to jump off of the Verizon network for other phones. So if your other phone didn't have Verizon, you wouldn't have service when you were out on a lot of calls.
I will say that I have Visible by Verizon, so it uses the Verizon towers, but it's way cheaper. I'm gonna throw that out. I paid $40 a month. last week.
Yeah, and I would just say that I have a pretty, I know, I fully respect that we don't always get what we want, but, but the idea of having to carry around a second device is not something that I like at all. I'd much rather just get a lower allowance.
Yeah.
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 All right, so we'll move on to the next category, that's elections. And so, one thing that I'll point out here. I'm gonna just jump to the two meteor lines. I'm doing some work right now. I'm working with my current elections specialists to clean up some of the coding in this printing services and equipment and software services. I've actually just recently changed the title of those lines. I've added this local return postage line. Because it's kind of been all across the board. There's just been some inconsistency in the way it's coded. And I'm just hoping to just start from square one in coding consistently across those two lines, which are the main two costs associated with elections, being printing and mailing, and equipment and software. and all of the services associated with those. One thing we'll see is that 2024 actuals came roughly to about $50,000, and that's when we had a primary and a general election, which is what we fully anticipate having in 2026. And so the total of those two lines mirrors here what we have proposed for 2026. And so that's kind of where you see the justification for what's currently proposed here. And then tracking back a little bit, we have specialized elections trainings. There's the Certified Elections Administrator course training. That's the gold standard accreditation for elections administrators. And I'm hoping to get my election specialist. It's a really great program that I'm completing this year. That's why I have to leave early today. It's been a really, I wouldn't push for my staff to complete it as well if I didn't feel like it was an extremely valuable coursework. And then there's Olene Walker vote certification, which is offered by the state. And they for clerks and their top election specialist, that participation in that program is fully reimbursed. But we still have to budget for the expense in this budget. And the detail regarding that cost, so that this is $1,200 is what we would expect to be reimbursed out of that $4,700, as well as attendance at the national conference for the Sarah course training that's in Kansas City. Then, yeah, the other items are mostly just, we have tracking with the even election year trend as far as these voter confirmation cards that we send out when we're processing registrations throughout the year. That picks up a little bit in those even years. And then this 4507 is based off of the exact quote that I received from ES&S, our equipment and software provider, related to a new computer that we're required to purchase to run the election management software. And we did have visitors from the Lieutenant Governor's office this week, and I was able to ask them the likelihood of getting some of that reimbursed, the cost of that new computer. And Shelley told me that it was likely that at least a partial reimbursement would be offered, so that's good news. And then training, this is I guess this 4,700 was travel associated with training, and the 6,650 here is the costs associated with the registration for the training. And so that's the election budget. It's pretty much it doesn't represent a big change as we see where we're looking or expecting to spend about somewhere in the order of $40,000 probably when it's all said and done for this municipal election year, plus the local special election, of course. But as far as the 2024 actuals, these numbers are skewed a little bit here because of the amount of equipment that we purchased that was reimbursed by the state, that equipment acquisition. But as you can see, this comes out to about 30. And so we do see so 82 minus 30 comes out to more like 52 minus that equipment. But the 66 currently proposed for 2026, the election expenses oftentimes come in a little bit lower than what we project, but we want to make sure we're covered. But also I think the training that wasn't included in the 2024 budget, the training and travel, that largely accounts for the difference between that 52 and that 66 between 2024 and 2026. That's the elections budget. Got just any questions or comments regarding that?
No, it looks like the big difference is just the capital equipment there, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. And we've got got a BOD, I'm sorry, I won't spend too much time talking about it. We have what's called the ballot on demand printer now, so we have the ability with certified equipment to print paper ballots in our office. So when we have to do follow-up mailings, when we can still mail ballots out, we can handle those mailings all in office, so it prevents us from having to work through our contractor. And it also gives us a really important sort of backup contingency in the event that, you know, we can't wait to dial up ballots being sent overnight or things of that nature. It gives us a lot more flexibility in handling elections. And then we also have a new digital poll pad. So we have an iPad that's going to be set up at the window. So when people check in to vote, we have a really smooth, slick process for checking people in and issuing them the right ballot. And of course, that equipment, we pursued that equipment, you know, when we knew that we would get reimbursement from the state to be able to make those upgrades. And last but not least, we have the audit category. It's just one line. It's the contracted external audit. The commission just approved the selection of Richie May to serve as external auditor for the 2025 year, which will commence in the new year, once that budget year is closed. The high end, the sort of ceiling quote that Richie May provided is what's currently in this proposed 2026 budget. Certainly you can see it's about double than what we've typically budgeted. Much of that is due to the inclusion of component units as a part of the audit that Richie May will provide. It's not exactly clear to me, and it's something that would be good to know. Are we going, if Richie May does complete audits for the component units, are those component units going to be paying the cost of that audit, or are we offering to, you know, to
I
front
think that
that?
we actually put that onto the next commission meeting, the
Okay.
agenda item.
There's been a discussion of us paying it completely, sharing the cost, or
Okay.
pushing it all on them, and I don't think that the commission has made any
Okay.
So, but it probably
determination on it.
would be a good idea to add on to the next agenda, just so that, because I'm sure that those component units are probably looking to source their audits as well right now. So,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and it wouldn't,
So- Sorry, so he's gonna do all the components, all the component units. I would hope so for this cost. This is big jump. So he's gonna do every single special
yes, we
service
need to figure
district.
out if we want to have the commission completely pay for all of the component units, which is kind of what we discussed, if we wanted to pay part of it,
Right,
or if we want to just pass it off.
right.
And either which way, they will be seeing a savings on what they've been paying, because we're grouping them up and we're basically buying it all.
So, right,
So,
Either way, the county pays it.
Yeah.
Whether it's paid through this budget or through the component units budget, and some of them, this price is much less than what the component units are paying. I know that some of them are paying a lot higher rate.
5,000 less on Grant County, or the healthcare service ones. So they'll be receiving quite a bit, and it'll also make sure that we're getting them in on time. Which
yeah, I
is something,
understand that. I understand.
So
we have
that's-
some issues with that. Yeah, okay. Cause again, we keep talking about trying to reduce our budget, so yeah, I think if we can have a larger discussion about this at the next commission meeting, that'd be great.
Well, and I
You know
think that
exactly
we
what
need to
that
make it.
encompasses.
Make the understanding out there, we're not reducing or increasing the budget unless we save money on it, because either way, the county pays that. It's just paid through a different budget rather than this one, because when the component unit pays $12,000. That's still coming out of county tax money, so it's a
So for
trade.
example, if you're talking about groundwater and sewer, like our special service districts, we're not paying that. County doesn't pay that. That's total
Quist is
separate
not,
entity.
Quist is not one of our.
Yeah, solid waste and recreation board and all.
They need to, okay, so we'll have a larger in detailed discussion. about that.
Yes,
Okay, that'd
that
be great.
needs to happen.
That'd be great. I mean, I just think,
That's
just,
fair.
I'm kind of like
Yeah.
from the outside looking in, right? If I were a citizen, I'd be like, whoa, what's this? That's why, you know what I mean? I just want to have a very detailed, open discussion about it.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to lump all of these services into one pot right here,
Okay,
rather than each person picking the auditors that they want to choose. Right, and going out
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Larson,
I
and going out to Squire, going out to this one,
right.
it's grouping it all up into one right there, so it's coming out of their budget and it's ending up right here.
And then we'll decide if we're gonna have that pay it.
Yeah, we're gonna pay admin pay, or we're gonna provide.
And it is worth mentioning that of the three quotes received of the external auditor bids, the one selected was, with or without the component units included, was at least the most economical, or, you know, right in line with the other ones, so. You know, we might have received the contract that we had at with Larson might have been locked in from a few years ago. And so the cost that we were getting reflected what they quoted us 3 years ago, and
Yeah,
we should have expected a bump anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate that, thank you,
Mhm.
that helps.
All right. Great, so that's the three budgets that I wanted to present here today. Looking at the agenda. Objections, because it'll take 1 minute, is to look at the surveyor budget, get that out of the way real quick. Any objections to that? So as it currently stands, I'll get out of the way bar. There it is, okay. As it currently stands, the surveyor budget, we pay them a per-time compensation and benefit package. And that's Lucas Blake. And currently, the 2026 proposed budget is just covering those costs. There have been in the past additional costs related to special projects that the surveyor completes, such as the Thompson replat. Or there were some other expenses that were incurred or that were at least budgeted for in 2023. I don't think that these were actually expended. Certainly if there's an update as far as if Lucas gets back to us and says, hey, I need 2,000 here to complete the specific project, and we have the appropriate background, an update will be provided if anything else gets added to it, but I don't necessarily anticipate it. So that's the surveyor budget category.
So is it okay if I make some comments? And they're not gonna be very well received, but I'm okay with that. So we've had this discussion for multiple years, because this position, this elected position, it is the only part-time elected position that is receiving, if I'm correct. Correct?
The short answer is yes. I would say in terms of classifications of full-time electeds and part-time electeds, there's really not a
Right,
difference in
Okay.
that. So it's kind of hard, but
right.
I guess the short answer is yes.
Okay, so it's a little weird, and so I would just say that, you know, in the future, I don't expect to take away somebody's when they're an elected, if they're elected for, I don't know when his term ends, you guys know. You know,
Cycle, so.
excuse me?
He's on the surveyor's on the presidential cycle.
Okay, so, but I do think it's something to look at in the future, right, to bring some consistency.
Great, thanks, Gabe. comments.
I wiggled it.
I did look at we try to make a 5% cut. In order to do that, I have to cut out about $16,000, which would represent almost the entirety of my non-payroll budget, which is I'm requesting $23,750. So it's not possible for me to do that without cutting hours or positions in my office. There's only 2 positions in my office, which is the elected official, myself, and my chief deputy. We're both full-time, and I believe that it's important to have 2 full-time positions in that office. I will say that I'm very proud of the fact that we have not
All right, are we?
I think you're back up and going.
Thank you. I'm sorry we had some technical difficulties. We're just coming back on at 9:42 here. And Treasurer Popham is in the middle of his presentation.
I'll just start over.
Okay.
I don't know where we cut out, so. I did look at trying to make a 5% cut in my budget this year. To do that, it would be about $16,000. My non-payroll budget is around 23,000. So it would basically be impossible without a cut in staff or hours. We only have basically two positions. The elected official, myself, and my chief deputy were both full-time. And I do believe it's important to have two full-time positions in my office. We do have a deputy treasurer who probably works about 7 or 10 days in an entire year, just to cover times when we don't have coverage in the office for whatever reason. We have been able to cut down on the number of days that that person works. We used to need someone to help out, especially on tax day and during tax season, but we have been able to reduce the amount of mail that we receive and the amount of walk-in traffic that we get by having folks pay more electronically, which more and more people are wanting to do, but we're also making it cheaper and easier and advertising it a lot. And that has really how many hours we need from our deputy treasurer. And I'm also very proud of the fact that we have been able to maintain the workload in our office, which had been increasing over the years without adding any additional staff. And we have done that through efficiency gains. We're constantly looking for ways to do things better and faster, utilizing technology. And I think my department is probably one of the only ones in the county that has not had to add staff over the last 10 years. So yeah, to talk about my non-payroll budget, I would note that when I first started in 2015, or the year before I started in 2014, our non-payroll budget was $19,000. And my current budget that I'm requesting is $23,750. So I'm also very proud of the fact that we have kept that budget quite low. We all know that there's been a lot of inflation and cost increases over the last 11 years, but we've been able to keep that cost down. Again, always looking for ways to reduce our costs. We can go through the individual line items on my budget if you want to. They're pretty self-explanatory. I will also say that I've been through, in the 10 years that I've been here, a number of rounds of cuts where we've been asked to cut our budget by so much, and I have tried to comply with those over the years. And I think that has resulted in a very bare bones budget. It's definitely like if something happens that I don't expect, it's quite easy for me to go over budget. And I'd be coming and asking for an increase. Fortunately, that hasn't happened very often. So yeah, I really was not unfortunately able to cut even my non-payroll budget from last year's amount, but I was able to keep it quite similar. But there again, yeah, I'm pretty much down to the bare bones office run. My biggest expenses are paying for the software that runs the county's tax accounting. And for mailing out the tax bill. Those are my two big expenses. Everything else is pretty minor. I do travel to 3 UAC conferences a year. I will mention that my travel was up a little bit this year because I did make 2 additional trips up north to attend some legislative meetings. I was able to stay at a family's house up there, so we didn't have any hotel costs. It was just the travel. So yeah, I'm happy to go ahead.
I'm not gonna debate you about numbers. I'm not debating the treasurer budget.
Yeah, I'm happy to entertain any questions about my budget. It's probably one of the smallest ones in the county, so.
Okay. I appreciate the detail regarding conflict, any small increases with plan. Thank you.
I will say that I am in talks with IT right now. We do have 3 computers. One of them is getting pretty old, and we will try to find a way to help it limp through for the next year. What we usually do, that computer doesn't do much. It's our front computer that we just have to do a few things on, but it needs to be where it's at so we can help people at the counter. And usually when we replace one of our other systems, we move that one up to the front. And we are scheduled to replace, it's either my computer or the chief deputy's in 27. So hopefully we can get through next year and then we'll have a computer to move up front. Also, our copier is extremely old. I don't even know how old it is, but we can't get a service contract on it anymore, and it's so old that we had to take it off of the network because of security concerns. So if we scan anything, we have to email it to ourselves now. But we will keep it going as long as we can, but if it does die partway through the year, I will be asking for some money to replace it. We can get a much smaller one, like we have this giant copier that you can do a whole bunch of stuff with. We don't need that anymore. We would go down to something much smaller. We pretty much just need to copy, print, and scan.
Thank you, Chris. Any other questions or comments? All right, see none, I'll at this time move along to the next item on the agenda, which is the recorder's office. We have Recorder Nelson here present, and I'm going to leave the meeting at this time. And Finance Director Lindsay will take over for the rest of the meeting. Thank you all.
Mine is also pretty simple. I do the UAC and the traveling and it's the big thing in my office right now is the CAD and coins, of course, is the main things that operate my office. We are looking at CAD that's would decrease a little bit with what we're paying now currently. So that's gonna decrease that. I too have some computers that are up for replacement. And other than that, the biggest thing is the chief deputy. I'm anticipating, of course, meeting a chief at some point soon. In the office where we're currently at, 2 deputies and a chief and myself was excessive for the amount of the workload that was coming in. And I couldn't ask for a chief on top of 2 deputies. That was excessive to me. So I eliminated one of my deputy positions and to have room in the budget for a chief be appointed. And that's gonna be that's the biggest thing to my budget is an appointment.
For me to put up everybody in the room, that the meeting on YouTube is totally fine because we've got it running off of this laptop here and my laptop and the Owl. So while we're struggling, the YouTube is,
And the computer's rolling.
yeah, everything's running. We're just struggling here. You can fine.
Sorry, Gina. Does
Okay.
anybody have any questions for the recorder budget or any comments?
I'm just maybe just a little jumbled, sorry. So in the past, you had 4 full-time employees, now you're down to 3. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the recorder's office has been full at 4
Right,
for years.
and you
yeah.
just felt like that
No,
was
but
unnecessary.
it is
I
unnecessary.
appreciate
Yes,
that,
it's
Gina. Thank you
unnecessary.
so much.
Yes,
Awesome.
it is.
However, she is requesting to appoint a chief deputy
Right,
recorder
yeah.
that does not have
Yes,
that position filled
gotcha.
Yeah,
at this time.
Okay.
that is the request.
There are
Anything else?
no further questions. We will go to the roads and stormwater. So Cody, welcome.
All right, let's try this on.
You got it, Cody.
Well, from what I see, Bill Jackson had a pretty tight show. I think the road budget's, I think it's pretty slim pickings as far as trying to figure out where we can cut infrastructure costs for the public anyway. Going down through it, I'm not really sure, and I apologize. Like I say, we're kind of trying this on, but Couple of the big items that I went down through, tried to cut a little bit of office costs and things, just looking at what 23, 24, and 25 looked like. Was able to shave, a little bit off the bottom line. Few of the big items, I tried to break things, oh, do you guys have that online? Yeah, I guess you're looking at it. Tried to break down kind of some costs, just so it is a little more, explains itself a little better. Our training and travel hasn't been, I mean, we don't have a great big budget for training and travel. I try to incorporate that in. I've got some CDL education that we're gonna need to do, and then, of course, just the regular certificates as far as CPR, flagger certifications, you know, just stuff to keep our rev crew up on certifications. Parts, filters, equipment, vehicles, kind of kept it right at that 240,000. 230 in parts and filters, and then diagnostic shop, miscellaneous office supplies, 5,000 on that. Moving down, there was a little discrepancy in our 4 motor graders. It'd be under the 2145, 2280 lease payments. Bill and I worked on that, got it cleaned up. There was still one tiny discrepancy. They were 33 per year, not 32 per year, so it did go from 128 to 132 just to clean up that $1,000 for each grader. Surveying and consultant fee, we kind of keep that in there because you just never know what with stormwater design or road design or anything. As you can see, we don't really use that budget item much, but it can add up pretty quick.
And Cody, can I pause you for a
Yes,
second?
absolutely.
So he did make some changes to his budget and he printed some new copies that may have a little bit of a discrepancy from what we have on here. So can you pass those
Yeah.
down, please? And I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that there's a possibility there might be a couple numbers that were changed between 8:30 and 9 this morning, from the time we had this up. But I think it's all updated, but just in case you see
Yeah.
something that doesn't match, double check your paper copy. Sorry, go ahead.
When I
continue.
cleaned it up last night, my descriptions weren't lining up. And my numbers I was working on the worksheet, not the budget draft, and so I went through and got the numbers figured out this morning, back to where they needed to be.
Hey, Cody, just a quick
Yeah.
clarification. Your department is funded almost entirely, outside of the general fund, through your own, fee road taxes that come in.
Correct.
The county has a contribution that's mandatory, I think, right, of 250,000 or something,
I think it's 200,000.
200,000, yeah. So,
Correct.
and do we anticipate a reduction in your revenue that you know of?
I think, I don't know if Quinn or Gabe could speak on that, like I say, I'm kind of trying this on. Learning that.
Okay.
43.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there is a revenue section on line 43.
I missed it.
Okay.
We're good, yeah.
Okay.
All right, go ahead and continue, please.
All right.
Thanks.
Moving down, one of the changes that I did do was with some of the cell phone allowance and, mechanic tool allowances. I just went ahead and bumped those all out to kind of what the max would be for the 4 mechanics based at a max tool allowance of $100. We're not at that level yet, but I figured it may as well be in the budget as a line item that actually equals what it eventually is gonna equal. I kind of did the same thing with the cell phone allowance. It bumped it up a little bit, a couple $1,000 in the cell phone allowance and the, not, the mechanic allowance is already there, but I did notice that we were in a deficit this year on the mechanic stuff, just as our new mechanics are increasing their tool inventory, that allowance could potentially be $100 per mechanic. Following down into the special highway projects, kind of broke that out just so it's a little more clairvoyant. I left $450,000 that we've kind of been able to work with as a budget item for infrastructure. Gonna get a crusher again this coming year. The road oil and chips, gonna do a chipping project. We're gonna have some patching, we're gonna have aggregate material signs, mag chloride. All that stuff kind of falls in there. I did kind of break it out in some initial costs based off of this year's figures. The line item 2145 2610 miscellaneous supplies. I have a pretty good description in there. I think what's happening there is parts availability is leading to more online ordering. The shop is ordering parts for vehicles, and I think they're just getting, it kind of is a standard code, it just goes to 610. And so I've visited with the shop a little bit on that, this $4,228 deficit in that, we're gonna be able to narrow that. I don't think we're gonna need to bump that budget up into that 5,000 or 6,000 range. I think the 2,500 is gonna suffice for the general Amazon stuff for office supplies and things. But I did have a word with the shop about that. Let's make sure we get stuff coded. Should go either to, I kind of noted them in here, either inventory, equipment, service, maintenances, or potentially the uniform allowance. Per diem for campers, this is one place that I did add a little bit just because of the, kind of put a little note in here, backcountry flooding, complete road washouts this year. And you know, especially along the Cliff Corridor, which is our main camp area. And we also do have 3 open vacancies right now, positions at the road department, so we are running a kind of a short staff. I mean, we're keeping up. I just don't want the level of service to drop. What I did have is I just added another 5,000 that we're running right up against. If you look at the remaining balance, we're running kind of right up against that camp crew per diem right now. And our fall grading is just barely beginning to start, so. We kind of bagged the shop office mini splits under the 452720 capital outlay buildings. The shop office doesn't have any heat or AC, so I did leave 1 on there. I don't think it's gonna be $5,000. We got some quotes. I think there's somewhere between 3 and 4. I just left the 5,000 in there since it does reference a cost of more than $5,000. There is gonna be some wiring and whatnot that needs to be done in that shop office, so it could potentially be around $5,000 for the total thing, but we were gonna do 4 of them throughout the county road, but I think the other 3 in the offices are gonna suffice for sure another year. The next big item come down to is our 740, the road equipment. This bumped just a little bit. It really didn't bump a little bit because the 2025 purchase, we actually had a late purchase. It was on the procurement list that came in and it put it right about that 490. What this covers is we're gonna replace a truck for $200K. We're gonna swap an old truck that is starting to have some engine problems, pull the bed, rebuild the truck, basically just purchase a new truck off of state contract purchasing with the state, and then put all the good parts off this old truck and then surplus that truck also, and farther down in the line items will surplus that. I do have a Caterpillar M series grader that Bill and I have been talking about for about 4 years getting rebuilt. New graders cost about $430,000 to $450,000. We can rebuild this grader. It's $270,000, but it doesn't have emissions. It'll be new engine, transmission, hydraulic pump. It'll be basically a brand new grader for half the cost.
Yeah.
And it'll serve the county for another 7 to 10 years with hopefully no maintenance. Also ends up with a warranty back on.
Yes.
And then I did throw a 20-foot tilt top trailer for our culvert operations. We're currently running a 16-foot trailer, but we haul 20-foot culverts. So when you drag a plastic culvert going through ditches, it messes up the ends of them. So it'd be nice to have a 20-foot trailer so the culverts would actually fit on the trailer. Under the 452800, that was a pretty big, I'm not entirely sure. We've never really used a whole bunch of that fund. About the only thing that I can think that we really use it for is kind of stock and reject sand piles and sandbags for emergency services for the public. I left it at, I cut it in half, left it at 10,000 just so we do have some buffer there, but as you can see this year, I mean, we're sitting at $360 for a couple of loads of reject sand. The tool allowance, as you can see went from 3,000, I just went ahead and bumped it out to the 4,800, which is the max allowance that the shop should have. And then under training, I cut that just back to just a straight 4,000. It's the Building Utah Conference, keeping my guys traffic control certified. And And then specialized trainings for the units, and the whole road department is up for CPR training, so I have 19 employees that are gonna need CPR certification, which I'm finding is kind of a. It's kind of a hurdle. There's not a whole bunch of CPR. Trainings available without spending quite a little bit of money, so in the process is kind of tracking that down. Coming down, we have currently four leased vehicles at the county road. We have two admin vehicles, which are just kind of standard crew cab F-150s, and then we have two crew service trucks, which they're the actual service that camp crews take out. 47,129, I just brought that line item across. Our totals are actually 44,500 is pretty much the estimate, so it's a little bit high, but it gives just a little bit of buffer. And then it comes down to, the contribution to trails, I think, Gabe and, well, administration services anyway, figured out this 309,922 as per GCAP proposed budget, which puts the budget at 4,345,274, which is about $500 less than it was last year. I know that's not 5%. I am running, instead of 19 people, I'm running 16 crew members. So 2 laborers and then a assistant supervisor. Do you guys have any questions, comments?
Great job.
Concerns?
Nice job.
Well, I wanted to come in
First go
prepared. I
around.
need to come in prepared. I don't want anybody, busting my chops. So the next section of this, you guys might bust my chops.
Get ready.
Yeah, do you guys have any questions?
Are there any questions on the top portion?
No, we're gonna go through revenue next.
We are, yep, so let's go ahead and move to the revenue. I need to make a pause and make a note for the record that board member Shan Hackwell is present at 9:58 AM for the minutes.
Thank you for coming. Okay, so now this part of it, this is gonna be a big learning curve for me, so, I hope that Chantel and Gwen and somebody can help me along.
I'll do my best.
Cause I'm not entirely sure how these revenues work. I apologize. So if somebody can kind of lead me along a little bit, I'll help.
I mean, we can go through, do you want to go through the items or would you like?
If you wanna lead a little bit, I'll follow along this.
So, the first one we have is the county optional sales tax. And so for the budget estimate, year to trend, and obviously this one can, be refined a little bit. We have the 1,083,596. The impact fee reimbursement, that's to be determined upon completion and implementation of impact fee analysis updates. If we go down to the B road allocation, we have the draft budget estimate at that point, or 275, and that's half of the 25 year to date trend. Again, that one could change a little bit. On the county contribution that's statutorily required, from the general fund, and it is related to the B road revenue, and that is at 200,000, and that is a statutorily required amount of money. We went down to the interest, and that came from the treasurer Kaufman's office, or on the PTIF county investments, is $308,978. We have a vehicle truck that needs to be sold in our sale of fixed assets. The estimation for that road equipment, we think, is between about 15,000 and 20,000. So we've estimated the went midline at 17.5. It could bring in more money.
Yeah. So this is on that, equipment purchase. Yeah, once we get all that equipment pulled off, that truck will be surplus. Just to recoup some of the costs.
And cost.
I just want to make a quick note on the interest. If you look at the 2024 amount, it's significantly higher, but that is because we passed the interest allocation ordinance last year and were able to allocate interest from 21 through 24. So that represents multiple years. It's not that we're earning, almost half. So, yeah. I mean, interest rates are going down for next year, so I had to, lower my estimates, but I just wanted to explain that $700,000 for 2024.
And like Cody said, he does have, 19 full-time, approved. He is currently operating at 16, employees. And so the total for his contributions, as you can see, after everything is in your bottom line item. And before we move to, the Fund 35 for road capital projects, does anybody have any questions on the revenue side?
Yeah, I got one question, and that's just why we, let's see here, the B road allocation went from 3 million down $250,000.
Hold on a moment.
Yeah. From the 3 million to the 270 or 2,750,000.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And those are, I have some of those questions too. I'm not sure if it's fuel tax. When do you have a little?
No, but I haven't had access to the PTI, I have to see the trend.
Yeah, that's, Brian, that's some of my, I just don't have the answers to those. I
Yeah.
apologize.
no, that's okay, that's just that one sticks out on me. And then when we look at this as well, we do imagine that there will be something coming in then from the impact fee reimbursement. We just don't know what that fund,
I
what that is.
seriously doubt that we're gonna see any revenue in 25 for that, for 26, hopefully. Wow, I think we're getting close on that impact fee analysis study. I checked in a month, anyway, yeah,
Okay, so would not expect anything there.
And
I would expect something for 26, yes.
Something,
but I don't know
something.
what. Yeah,
Okay.
until that analysis.
Perfect, okay, those are my.
And in terms of that dropping from the 3 million, I'll ask Gabe and I will just, have an email out to everybody. I'll ask him. I'm sure he has the answer to that. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that one.
I do know that there was a line item where there was a one-time allocation of B road funds with a bill that we worked on with UAC. And then it tapered off. There was a one-time allocation and then it
And then it
reduced down
reduced.
significantly to just an ongoing.
Okay,
And it's possible that that's where it is in there, so.
okay, and I will ask Gabe to clarify and I'll get an email out. I'm sorry that we don't have the answer to that one. And then do you wanna do your road capital projects? These capital projects also will be added to the new capital projects master list that I created. And I've been working with Cody on that. That document is going well. We have almost all the departments on there, their cost estimate, if they have an external match or not. We've got that list looking really well, and as soon as I can get with Cody, next week, we're gonna have some estimates for some of his big capital project costs. He did have some still currently in 2025 that are even starting next week, so those ones won't be included in that capital projects list for 26, such as the Heaven Chapman Road culvert replacement.
I can probably.
Okay, you want-
explain
okay,
this.
all right.
Yeah. So I went ahead and left on the 4100 720 road projects. I left the 2025 C detail below that Bill Jackson and I had kind of cleaned up. As I don't know how many of you know, but this Heaven Chapman Road culvert replacement, that'll be this year. That's actually starting probably in the next couple of weeks. It'll carry into next year, but the actual culvert replacement that the county kicked out, it ended up only being about $210,000. So that's gonna be in this budget year. Spanish Valley Drive Mill and Fill, that's actually gonna happen here in the next couple of weeks too. It'll probably be done by Thanksgiving. So that's gonna be erased also. The Safe Streets for All local agency agreement grant with the Moab City, the 60,000, I'm sure that's gonna carry into next year with this kind of high level planning and whatnot that the city and county are working together on. And then, of course, the Tappy Hollyoak match, the 324,000 that the road department had. I just kind of added in off of some capital improvement projects. was working with the Transportation Special Service District. That's how we got the Spanish Valley Drive Mill and Fill project done. With the county throwing 350,000 at it and the Transportation Special Service District picking up the other 428,000 to make that happen this year. I would just about bet, talking to the chair of that special service district, that they're wanting to continue that for the infrastructure in the valley. Which is why I threw kind of a San Juan Highland Canna overlay working with the Transportation Special Service District. I have it at 500,000. It's likely gonna be more in the range of 3 to 4 for the county's perspective. And then the Transportation Special Service District would, I can't speak for them, but they would probably pick up that other 3 to 4, which gives us another 800 to $1 million project for infrastructure of pavement, more than likely road surface in the valley. I also threw off of some notes that Bill Jackson had the Jefferson Street rebuild. It's curb gutter sidewalk, the road surface. This all kind of plays into how this bidding goes with the Boulder project, which we'll speak about the Jackson Street storm drain. That we'll speak about in our next storm drain budget advisory board meeting. But it does all kind of fall into that same area. If it doesn't work at Jackson, maybe we could bump over and do the Boulder. There is actually some infrastructure that's already under Highway 191 for the Boulder project coming out of that pond. And then that would put it under the highway without maybe such a highway UDOT influence. And then we could potentially tie the cross street, which is Jefferson, in between Jackson and Boulder. That could be a potential upgrade of some curb gutter sidewalk, storm drain mitigation, and road service for that neighborhood. This is gonna be, there's gonna be joint with TAP and CIB on this. The TAP usually is in, I think, the 300,000 range. Sean and I have been working on that, and I apologize again, I'm not sure if that will carry over. I know you can't double it up or anything, but it would be a $300,000. It would help with a $300,000 cost on some of those budgets what I did is I just kind of brought the same cost, the $1,334,000 that we had in the 2025 budget, tried to bring it across to try to make sure that we try to put at least $1 million back in infrastructure in the community this year.
Are there any questions on that section? And we do have Sean Yates here as well, with Cody, for the stormwater. If, wanna.
Is that where we're moving on to now?
Yes.
Okay. Sean, you want me to start? Okay, so as far as stormwater. I kind of spoke a little bit on the Jackson Street with that storm drain there. There's gonna be some road improvements. Of course, the majority of it is a drainage project. I think you have that exact figure. I don't have that figure 3.
So the Jackson Street storm drain phase 2 is $3,325,000, except for there is an external match of $447,000, so the total cost of the county would be $2,878,000 approximately. And those numbers I've received from Sean. And the Jackson Street storm drain phase 2 is on the new capital projects master list. And it does have the cost analysis, or the cost with those birth and the match.
Did we finish with the CIB funding for that? Because at one point CIB was trying to pull back their grant that they had given us on that because it's been sitting there.
I think there's still some time left on that CIB.
We should check into it if we need to ask for another extension or whatever we would need to do there. We don't want to lose that grant money if at all possible.
Yeah, I'll check it. Dave seemed to think that if we had it out to add by the end of the year,
Yeah,
we should be able to, but I'll verify that.
Yeah.
You mind if I ask a question that's not related to budget, Sean?
Sure.
Where are we at with we were gonna update the stormwater management plan, for the 2014?
I have to step.
You know, if that's in process.
Yeah, it's 2011.
Okay, 2011, thank you, sorry, further back than I. Okay,
So in order to expedite it as well as reduce the costs. I talked to Dan Stenta, and we feel like it could be, also talked to Stephen about, we feel like it can be just an additional task for the Clorox.
Right, okay, yeah.
They've been very busy on
Yeah.
other stuff.
okay,
Uh,
okay,
I know Dan Stent is working on a scope and a fee for that one.
okay, great. Yeah, I was just wondering.
I know we talked about it.
I know, no, that's
Probably a month
awesome,
or so
that's,
ago.
that's. Yeah, it is very important.
Priority.
Okay, yeah, I agree, right, because then.
And so the main projects that, for 2026, that I received from Sean D, was the Jackson Street Storm Drain Phase 2, East Holyoke Lane sidewalk. There's also an external match of 300,000 for that one. So the total cost to Grand County would be 712,000. As the project cost was 1,012,000. The Spanish Valley Drive multi-use path, cost is 3.8 million. Our external match is 2.7. It would cost county 1,105,000. Those are on the capital project list, obviously. And so, they'll remain at the top of those, and as this list becomes more evolved, and we can decide what projects are up for that, so. Good. Are there any more questions on the storm water fund? Okay, thank you very much, Cody. Thank you, Sean. Very good. Thank you.
Just keep drizzling right.
All right, and next we have our Grand County Assessor, Deb Swayze. Come on up.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Cody.
Good to have us. Sit in the hot seat.
I asked her if she wanted to come up earlier, she's like, no, oh, is it sure? It's not, oh, thank you, but no.
All right, welcome. And so if you just want to start, with any big changes or however you want to do it, your salaries, and benefits are listed at the top. And then if you want to talk about some of the different amounts, you're welcome to just start where you want.
You want me to go over all of them or just some that I?
I think just ones where you've made changes, like, let's see. Maybe you can talk about your travel,
Yeah.
and once again, we have the printing services down at the bottom. That's a standard, for that professional technical services, just as, and most offices, and departments have those printing service maintenances, so we don't have to buy new printers.
So on the travel, it's just because I've got a new employee and so she's having to take classes in Salt Lake. She's gotta take, I think 8 in the next year and a half, so she'll be going back and forth to Salt Lake, so that's why that increased.
Okay.
I was looking at, I wish I could see this better. I tried to long it's like I can't read this. On account 4146210. Which is. Subscriptions and memberships, we can cut that back to 500. I don't think we're gonna need as much in that one this year.
Okay. All right, repeat that change.
Same thing with 220.
All right. The notices on your appraisal areas and tax changes.
Yes.
Okay,
In 800,
okay,
which is. Inventory, I thought we were gonna need a new computer, but Matt told me I don't need one for a couple years, so I'm good there, so I only need just one filing cabinet instead of 2 this year.
okay.
I can't believe how much those have went up, it's unreal.
And then your miscellaneous services, are, for appraisals and audits.
Yes, and I don't know, on that one, I don't know where we'll be at for, are you talking about 850?
Yes, or, 620.
Yeah.
Line 17.
That's for state tax commission audits for
Okay.
personal property and stuff like that. And I'm not sure about the $850 for the reappraisal. We're in the process right now of our RFP. So just depending on where it comes in, last year I came in and gave 20,000 back. I may do that this year. I don't know. We haven't got our bids in yet.
Okay,
So,
and isn't that RFP the one that you just?
yes.
Yeah, we just barely put that one out, okay?
Yeah,
All right,
I think it closes on the 15th. So.
are there any questions for Debbie on her budget?
Just, so you have a new employee and that's her travel, but then you have 3,000 more for schooling?
Yeah.
Is
That's
that
to pay for the classes.
actual
Yeah,
classes?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we keep the cost of the, remember
Right.
the schooling and everything, down in the bottom line. Sometimes it's schooling, it's also been listed as training on certain budgets like Cody's. And then up at the top, the travel would just be specific like hotel or.
So in theory, if like this big one reappraisal, I mean, if the RFP comes in, that could be quite different. You just kind
Yeah.
of threw a.
Yeah.
kind of a
Yeah, I just
fluffy
put it
number
back where it
just for-
was,
yeah,
I just put it
okay.
back where it was last
Okay.
year.
Yeah, okay.
And Debbie, how many full-time employees do you have? I'll fill in the line for you.
4,
4, okay.
well, 4 plus me.
Oh. All right. And are there any other questions? No? Okay. Is that our last one? I think it's our last one. So it is 10:24 a.m. and I will call the meeting to adjournment.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Lovely. You can go on my disgusting. What's up, boss?
What's that?
We ask you to stop recording.
That's what we're looking for.
Which one is this on?
It's for, I'm sorry.
So it's basically, well, they're looking for
Then we got a kid that I made. It's so great, and so it's so great, native external county. And then.
Well, we should